So, in coordination with what David and Chad just brought to us for their safety moment, and of course, as we look to make sure that in addition to all the different things that we do every day, we certainly want to make sure that we get home safe to our loved ones each day. I always do try to highlight or bring attention to industry best practice. And so as we look at just some industry initiatives that are going on in the transportation industry during the month of June, always heat awareness is something that we talk about, because heat awareness, of course, is a hot topic in our area of the world for the month of June and July. And then as we look at different initiatives that are going on, we have National Safety Month. The National Safety Council designated June as a time to focus on workplace and roadway safety. Weekly themes include continuous improvement, employee engagement, and overall well-being. There's also, last week occurred the Our Roads, Our Safety Week. This annual event by the FMCSA emphasizes safe driving practices around large trucks and buses. I know that FMCSA puts out those standards, and so we want to make sure that while we identify the standards, we don't take away the person-to-person, relationships that we have every day, looking out for one another, making sure that we get home safe to our family. And then last but not least, just another initiative for the month of June to highlight is National Trailer Safety Week. That was, again, last week, rolling over into this weekend, June 1st through the 7th. That's a sponsored event by the National Association of Trailer Manufacturers. And again, that week promotes safety towing practices and trailer maintenance. So again, I always like to highlight safety because I care about my family, and whether you believe it or not, I care about your family. So I want to make sure that everyone is always safe and aware of our surroundings so that we get home safe to our families each day. All right, Les, next slide. And that you see there is a couple of those events that I just brought up. And then as we move into the next slide, just again, highlighting the mission of why we're here. So again, for those of you that have not met me or don't know me, my name is Lauren Lindley. I am the Senior Customer Success Manager at HeadLight, assigned to our LADOTD family and the members of the family, like you, LADOTD employees, as well as our CEI firms. The mission at HeadLight is to modernize the workflows of critical operations that, with our trusted data, are bringing together all of the data from all of the different sources that we just mentioned to make better and smarter decisions as we work through our daily operations. So, most of us certainly worked in a realm prior to today where there was lots of paper, lots of notebooks, lots of pens and pencils everywhere. So looking to modernize that and utilize the technology to make us more efficient and better at what we do every day. All right, y'all. Now I talk fast and that was a lot. So now I'm going to turn it over to my friend Les, who does not talk so fast.
I don't know. Sometimes I can get carried away with the words. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this. So we're going to talk about, this is something that came up recently. And I'm just going to share that we have lots of LADOTD folks on here. I recognize most of these names. This is going to be something that you've been doing for years now, and it's probably not going to be that useful for you. And even our CNI folks that are on here, you guys probably know all this and know how to get through these issues. But with that being said, we do have new CE&I groups coming on to do HeadLight projects or projects using HeadLight. And this really, we had 2 issues last month where a couple of projects went through a whole month and basically were just a mess at the end of the month trying to get the estimate done because of the location sequence numbers and filling out the work items. So let me share. Actually, let me get rid of this. Give me just a second. All right, so let me share. Okay, and we have kind of gone over this in the past, and it really relates to a couple of things, not just the location sequence number, but also just kind of what it takes to get a line item to sync over correctly from HeadLight to Site Manager. And I've got our test project here, and this is actually something I did last year, but it was a pretty good example of what we're talking about here. And what it is, the location sequence number, which is this column here, right? We only have to do that in HeadLight when you have multiple entries of the exact same line item, right? So here we have 4 entries of the line item 9001 in our test project. And all these names, I mean, these are names that we're familiar with, but this is all fake, right? This is just a made up project. I want to start by saying that. But I do want to bring, let me see, let me check one of my screens. I have it up somewhere. Where is my site manager? Okay. So I thought it would be good to put these side by side so we can see what we're talking about here. And I just want to mention, I tried to go in and create a DWR and Site Manager and do new line items, and I couldn't remember how. That's how long it's been since I've created a DWR and Site Manager. So I had to go with something I'd done before. I guess it's a good thing that I'm even starting to forget how to use this, since hopefully we'll be getting rid of this thing soon. But all that being said, so these 4 9001s, in the work items tab on Site Manager, and these are represented here, right? But these 4 work items that were entered actually probably synced over from this report into Site Manager here. And I want to call attention to this. So you can see I've filled out the location sequence number here, and it's just sequential numbering, right? So when you enter 4 or more of these, you just 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You just have to number them. If you're only entering one item, such as like this 9005 Class A, you don't have to put anything here. It will show up automatically. And you can see in Site Manager, this box that is grayed out, that is the number 1, which is assumed when you don't put anything on one item. Site Manager will assume it's number 1 and do that one for you. But with the sync service that works between HeadLight and Site Manager can't distinguish those line items, and it's not automatic. So we have to actually put the numbers in here. Now that we kind of know where this is in Site Manager and what the correlation is, I'm just going to go back full screen with HeadLight so we can talk about this. One thing that this does not happen very often, actually, I would say it's probably pretty rare, but I do want to mention this because on our other spreadsheet stuff like contract personnel and equipment, you have to list the, like let's just use equipment for example. You have to list the equipment for each contractor or subcontractor separately, and you can't have any repeats in there because Site Manager will reject it, right? Well, work items work a little bit differently. If you were paying 4 of the same work items, but you had 2 different contractors, the location sequence number still continues, right? So we want to keep that in mind. Like I said, that would be pretty rare where, a prime and a sub are working on the same thing, but I think it does at least define how this works, right? It's really based on the line item and not the contractor, like the contract personnel and equipment there. So anyway, just creating work items. If they're the same, like this case right here where I have a number 4, line item 4, line item 4 with 2 quantities. I have a 1 here and nothing in this one. Same contractor, 100% this would cause a rejection in my report from Site Manager, right? So we just want to make sure that we're doing those location sequence numbers. Like I said, we have sometimes they're not necessarily new CNIs, but since we've done the mandate and they're starting to get projects with LADOTD and they've not used Fieldbook or HeadLight at all, they come into it not knowing they have to do this. So we want to get a good recording and something that HeadLight or even the e-construction team can share out to those users whenever they get a job, right? Make sure you're doing this with your work items. And then also there are other parts of this, right, that has to be done. Place quantity, which is something you're going to do anyway. Measured indicator, this doesn't really cause a sync issue. You can mark yes or no there if you actually measured it. But I do want to talk just a second about stations because you can get a rejection here. And this format is what I want to call out, that this is the correct format for a station number. It will hold 8 characters, not including the plus sign. That is 4 numbers left of the plus and it will do 4 numbers right, but it's only if it has a decimal. So if you were to put 5552 without a decimal there, you would get a rejection from Site Manager. So we just want to call that out and make sure that you guys are aware of that. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have about the location sequence number. Are there any questions there? Let me pull up my list here because there were some.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Les, is on that, is it per day? In other words, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then say the next day I have the same amount of, same items. In other words, will I start 1, 2, 3, 4 on the next day?
Yep, it's per
Okay.
DWR, right? So your daily work report, if you did these 4 same items the next day, you would just go back 1, 2, 3, 4. You would not start at 5, right? Yep.
So previously, in other words, I would take all 4 of those and I was combining them, and then in the remarks, I was putting my station number to station number and doing it that way. Is either way okay, or is it
Yeah,
preferred?
I think so. Either way would be fine. In fact, it's probably a little easier the way you did it before. The other way you were doing it, where you were just combining the 4 quantities and then putting in remarks where they went to. I think either one of those is acceptable documentation. Sometimes we like to, pay separate work items, one for each location. But yeah, totally fine to combine those and just put in, as long as you have it called out in the remarks what those 4 different ones are, and it's easily get to that information. I think that's fine. Good question, though. I appreciate that one. Anybody else have questions about line items or location sequence numbers? Like I said, most everybody on this call has gotten this already, and we've worked through all these issues at LADOTD. In fact, it's rare we even talk about Fieldbook on here because I feel like over the past 7 years, we've gotten pretty accustomed to what it takes to get a report to go through. But we also have to keep in mind that there are new users coming on board and new companies coming on board. So we want to make sure we're providing decent training for them as well. Okay, so a couple things. One thing that's coming up is the Fieldbook 101 training. So Lauren is re-implementing a training every month. And I don't believe that this, and Lauren, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not like a beginning to end HeadLight Fieldbook training, right? This is just, we're going to take little snippets of kind of what it takes to work in HeadLight and pick one of those topics and go over it every month.
You are correct.
Okay.
You are correct.
So, and I believe the first one, we're just going to kind of go over, how to utilize all of the documentation of training that we have on YouTube and kind of go through that, how a user can really learn what they need to learn by viewing those videos. This would be something that, in my mind, you would send your new users to, right? And you're totally welcome to come if you're a seasoned veteran in HeadLight, but I feel like this is going to be geared more towards those newer users or less experienced users. And of course, we have a topic, right, that we'll go over the YouTube stuff here, but it's also a great place for them to ask a question, and either me or Lauren, whoever feels comfortable doing it, if they have a question, we can show them live, kind of like we do on the webinar here. But really answer their questions and kind of get them involved. That being said, we also, there are video recordings of training on our YouTube page that go all through the whole thing, right? That's good for new users. But if you guys have a bunch of new users that have started and that need like a full-on training, we're happy to, accommodate that as well. So, in fact, of course, over the past, I would say 2 years, sample plan and materials have been the main focus, right? Because like I said, we've gotten pretty used to Fieldbook, but materials and sample plan, we've been doing lots of training on those, particularly sample plan and ATM. In fact, I have a request from District 808 right now. They want to do a district-wide training, and so I'll be sending over some dates and trying to set that up soon. Like I said, we're happy to help and accommodate wherever we can to provide that training. So feel free to send that over to us. If you guys took a look at the newsletter, so the first part of that is we have given the green light to start pilot projects for contract administration. And that is really only that's the estimates, change orders, and the funding right over to LeGov. So those three aspects are pretty much ready to start trying on a couple of projects. And we've picked out a couple of projects so far, and we'll be getting with that group here pretty soon in the next couple of weeks. After some discussion today, it looks like we may add a project or two just because of timing, right? We want to be able to get enough data to make sure estimates are flowing well. So nothing in mind yet, but we'll probably be reaching out to some of you if we decide to add a couple more. I wanted to talk about iPad refresh. We appreciate all of you who took the time to fill out that form. I think we've had somewhere around 380 people fill that out. I know that we have a contract for around 600 iPads, so we're still missing a few people. If you have some people in your office that have not filled that out, please get them to go in and fill that out so we can have a documentation of where that iPad is or if it needs to be replaced. In fact, I probably have, I'm saying this, but kind of talking to myself here too, I probably have 3 iPads up here at headquarters that need to be submitted on that form that I need to fill out myself. So
And Les, if you want to share that PowerPoint presentation again, it has some of the numbers on there of where we are so far. So kind of just going hand in hand with what you were just saying. Les distributed out that iPad exchange registration form and just, we've received about 380. And what I did was I did my best to take each of the units and identify which units have responded so far, or the majority have responded so far. So based on those 380 or so responses, the most responses we've received from any unit are units 02, 58, and 62. So shout out to y'all. Anybody that's joined us on from any of those units. So super thankful for that. And as we look to gain more insight into that, this process is also helping us to identify just what user has which device, so we can make sure that in the future that we are providing you with the most current and up-to-date software, most current and up-to-date tools, so that you can effectively do your job. We certainly don't want you to have an iPad that's outdated, that you can't do a software update to. That is not the intent. So also, part of that registration form, we've asked users to identify which provider works best in your area. So we heard from a couple of units that maybe AT&T works better versus Verizon. And so I know that was the 2 options that we had on there. That's the 2 providers that we offer. So, that is so helpful to us, so that, again, not only we're giving you the necessary tools and resources to do your job, but we're not giving you something that has no connectivity in the field. And that, as we look to do these or relaunch these HeadLight 101 training, that is definitely something that we're going to be discussing during those monthly trainings, is offline capabilities. So I know a lot of you know how to navigate the software via offline capabilities, but we want to make sure that no one's getting frustrated with the process of that, or that you're doing it you're doing it, you're losing work. Maybe there's a better way to do that. We want to make sure we're addressing any challenges that you're having. We want to make this a better process for you. So you can see there some of the statistics around the responses that we've received from the iPad renewal registration form. And then we will certainly be reaching out to those units that are responding that have eligible devices. We will be reaching out to you to schedule events in your area. Anything else with that, Les, that you can think of?
I do want to mention quickly, just so there's no confusion when we get ready to do that. So in the event, there are probably some PE offices, and of course, we're just talking about LADOTD here. Sorry, consultant folks, but you guys have separate contracts. So you guys can work that out with HeadLight whenever you need iPads. But on our end, in the case where some, the same office, some people say AT&T and some people say Verizon, so we're not going to accommodate that. So we're going to leave that decision up to the PE. They can look and decide one way or the other which works best in the whole, as far as their office, and we'll select one provider and do all of their iPads as that one provider, which typically should work the same. I know some people cover larger areas, and yes, it might be better Verizon on the east side of your area than the west side, but we're going to have to, make a choice because just the, logistics of having different types of iPad in the office would be a nightmare for HeadLight to try to manage that. And so we want to, just select one.
Absolutely. And Les, if you go to that next slide, I believe based on, Les distributing out the iPad exchange renewal form, there were some questions that came back. So I did try my best to get some answers to some of those questions. So a lot of you asked, what kind of iPad am I going to be exchanged for? It's my understanding that the iPads that have been ordered to exchange are those iPad 11th gen, whatever that means. And y'all, look here, I'm a CSM and I'm here to help and support you any way I can. But I know I work for a software company, but I'm really not that techie. So you're going to get an iPad 11th gen. And so as we look at storage, I know storage is usually a big issue for folks. It looks as though the storage associated with those exchanged iPads is going to be around that 128 gigabyte. And then the accessories that we know will be included will at a minimum be a wall charger and an ArmorX case, but they're also looking at possibly providing a strap and or a car charger for those new devices as well. So I just wanted to put the link on here as well. So if any folks have not already completed that, we'll certainly include it in the recap to you guys, but it's also going to be included here on this presentation so that you have easy access to go ahead and complete that form. I think the only other thing with that is that I know a couple of folks said, well, if I don't have an iPad that, if I have a newer iPad and I don't feel like it needs to be replaced, do I still need to fill out the form? And we are just asking everyone, regardless of the age of your iPad, to fill out the form so that we know where we stand. Certainly we have records internally at HeadLight that can identify who has what iPad and what year they are, but we want to make sure that we're aligned with what you guys have in your records, and so we can adjust if needed.
So I have a question about the rollout with the new devices. So you mentioned about getting car chargers. So a dilemma that we're all going to be running into now is we have brand new vehicles, some of them, and they do not have cigarette lighters. There is no way to insert the car charger that comes with HeadLight. This happened to me the other night on a project, and I had to go around to 7 different stores looking for a cable to do this, and I finally found one at a gas station, but it was kind of an issue. So moving forward, most cars don't come with cigarette lighters anymore.
Right. You're right, Daniel. You're right. So so I know I believe they've already placed the order for the actual iPads, but as they look to potentially place the order for the car chargers, we will certainly take that into consideration, that just what you said, most cars do not come with a cigarette lighter now. So we want to make sure that whatever chargers we provide, whether it's wall chargers or car chargers, that those are compatible with what you currently have.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback, Daniel. I've not heard that. Or what did you end up getting? Was it USB-C charger cable?
For the iPad, what do I have?
No, I mean like the part that plugs into the truck, was it USB-A or USB-C?
The part that plugs into the truck, I have a USB-C and I have a USB.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will say this, a lot of the wall chargers, or all of the wall chargers, come with the cable comes out, and the cable would probably plug in directly to the vehicle.
Possibly so. We were never given wall chargers. It all came with the cigarette lighter thing that's actually put to it and does not come off. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All of that good feedback. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that.
So I do want to mention, along with that, I sent out something a few weeks ago. HeadLight, in their contract, they provide the accessories with a new iPad, and they were providing some accessories to LADOTD and even the consultant community whenever something would break or in the middle, right? And that was just kind of leftover stock they had. They were just kind of providing that free of charge, but it really got to be too much, and they really don't have that stock anymore. And so I sent out something maybe a couple of weeks ago that they would not be providing that. So we need to be working with our district warehouses also to be able to get that stuff, Daniel. If you I know how that process is, and I know sometimes you can get some feedback there that might not be the greatest. please, if you get that, send it to us so we can help from our end as well. And, let the districts know that it is something that is necessary and needed. And we'll help you out wherever we can if you run into some issues there.
Well, I can just say right now, before I even ask, there's going to be an issue. So
Yeah, that's fine. When you get it, just get an email together and send it to us, to the e-construction section, and we'll help out wherever we can. I know that there's going to be issues with that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, just instead of even dealing with that back and forth, you guys are aware of the problem. Why can't it just start from the top and you just go?
So I asked about that,
Okay.
but we can't. I just wanted to purchase it with our budget, right? But because of the way things work, we can't do that because it's a district thing. At least that's what.
Okay.
So
we trying to help you out, Daniel. We know.
My iPad don't work, then I can't take pictures, and then it doesn't get inspected.
That's exactly what I brought up.
That is exactly what Les said.
I don't use the iPad much anymore. I mean, as a project engineer, I'm not really having to go in the field, but we're all short-staffed, and I'm playing the role of inspector on multiple projects at night to alleviate my staff. And I had not charged this iPad in quite a while, and I was stuck, and it was definitely an issue. But thank you for that.
Yep, appreciate it, Daniel. Thanks for letting us know that.
Yeah, for sure. Les, I did want to call out in the monthly newsletter. You have in the monthly newsletter that we have an individual from District 5. I don't know if Jack Moore is on the call, but I just wanted to call that out too. If you want to share the monthly newsletter on the screen and maybe just highlight kind of the accomplishments of Jack and how he has been the HeadLight hero of the month.
If I can find it, I will. Let's see.
Good deal. While you're finding Jack Moore's shout out, anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. Basically, when I was trying to help somebody fill out some aggregate reports, it still selected all labs. And if you select that, it's a big problem to try to remove 15 labs or something. So yes. I just want to know when that may be fixed.
Yes. And Kevin, Les, you tell me if I'm wrong, but that's the report that we got in last week.
Actually, no. What Kevin is talking about there has been something that's been an ongoing issue for probably a year now.
Oh yeah, is that the issue where we looked at with Dane at McManus, where when you're navigating through that, it automatically selects all the labs?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they're working on that one, Kevin. So see, I did know what we was talking about. But yeah, I did. I actually witnessed that with my own eyes within my first 30 days of being here. I went out to McManus with Dane Cook, and we took a look at that. And as he was navigating through that, I saw wherein just what you said, when you begin to select which lab you want to send those samples to, it automatically selects all of the labs. I know they're working on that, Kevin. So I will get an update from product for you, and I'll message that to you directly. And certainly, if that update impacts all of you, I will certainly make sure that we address that in our next monthly e-construction webinar.
Yeah, it definitely impacts everybody. It's a statewide issue.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so Les, do you want to? Like I said, I know that last week we had a couple of tickets come in around. Was it duplicating samples? Is that correct, Les?
So it's duplicating tests. So that's two separate issues, but both equally high priority. So here, I'll tell you what.
There's been a couple down here too, Les.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a statewide issue. Like I've seen it on multiple samples around. And so what's happening is it's adding every time, especially if you edit the sample. I'm sorry, let me start over. If you add a test, it will add at least 3 of those tests to the sample. And then if you edit the sample, it adds 3 more. And I have a ticket in myself. Kevin Barbier, if you see that, please submit tickets on that. I know our consultants are sending tickets. Some of our LADOTD people are sending tickets. And I sent it in as a high priority statewide case because it's a lot of administrative work to go in and remove those samples, like having to deal with limbs and taking that out. It's not easy to do. And so but the specific issue Kevin is talking about, when you create a sample
Yeah.
At the bottom, when you go to select a lab, the default is all district labs. And so if you forget to uncheck that, then you have to go cancel that sample everywhere. So,
Yeah.
and the labs don't like us, which is understandable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So those two different issues, I will certainly follow up with product and see where we are. I know that they are aware of those. They've been actively working on those. And then, like I said, with the other issue where it's like triplicating the items, I did see the issue. Jimmy, thank you for reporting that. I did see that one, as well as Jason reported that as well. So I am actively looking at any ticket that comes in to see if this is a global issue or if it's just a one-off, and making sure that you guys get timely responses from HeadLight support.
Hey, Les, to go back to what you said, when you said the triplicate, were you talking about the tests?
Yes.
I turned away for a second. Okay, yeah, that is an issue. The same sieve analysis comes up 3 times, and you have to like go remove it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me share this. I know you guys have heard the term before, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Every time you do a sample and it does that, send in a support ticket.
Okay.
The more support tickets that development gets at HeadLight, the faster they are to get it resolved.
Yep. For sure.
As a matter of fact, Lauren and Les, I just ran into that this morning. I was putting in some certificates on one of our projects, and I noticed that like the field acceptance test was added like 3 times.
Yep. That's
Yep.
it.
That's it. Yeah. If y'all will send those to support@headlight.com. Like I said, I looked at Jimmy and Jason's yesterday, but I will certainly include those in the overall product ticket that they're working on actively to resolve that. So thank you for those of you that already sent those in.
And just to catch Lauren up on the headache, this is one of the reasons that we're trying to create these mega forms, is to get away from this itemization of test method, where the ones that need the replication can actually be created in the form itself. So
Yes. Thank you, Patrick.
yeah, we are trying to eliminate the even chance of this happening by creating a mega form that tailors itself to what you need within the form itself, instead of having to do multiple.
All right.
Okay.
Where are we?
So I think we talked about our location sequence numbers. Anybody have any other questions around errors you receive or how to input those or anything else with location sequence numbers? That was our main topic for this month. And if you have questions after, certainly you can email. That is no problem at all.
Lauren, I don't know if maybe you're the one that can answer this. One of my guys, I already sent in a ticket for it, had lost his iPad, and Elijah already responded saying he put it in lost mode. Just out of curiosity, does that lock the iPad when nobody can use it?
Yes, that does lock the iPad.
So if it is somebody picked it up, they have to jailbreak it in order to be able to use it.
You right. You right. You right. All right. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right. Good stuff. All right. Well, I certainly appreciate everybody taking their time. Les, do you have anything else to cover today?
One more thing. So just real quick, we talked about earlier, Jack Moore is the HeadLight Hero of the Month, and I'm sure you guys had time to read that by now. Don't forget, if you have people in your unit or just people that you work with or whatever that you feel like deserve some recognition, all you got to do is click this iPad right here and fill out this form. It's only 3 questions, super easy, and we will look at that and try to get them in the newsletter. Also, and I can stop sharing this. One last quick thing, because this kind of caught even the e-construction team off guard. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, OTS just shut down the AnyConnect VPN. Like, we don't have it anymore. Like, just literally just turned it off, and nobody knew, right? So that caused some obvious problems with HeadLight. They were not able to import projects. They were not able to do any development work and get it through. We've gotten them resolved. There is another option And that option, and you guys have probably seen on your laptops, at least the LED or TV people, is the Global Protect VPN. So the construction team has been working with OTS to try to get settings that we need to use those on the iPad so that you guys can continue to get to the intranet page from your iPad. They gave me access, and when I came back off vacation this past week, or was it this week? I'm not sure. I can't remember anymore, but I tried it on my iPad. It did work. I was able to get to the intranet page, but there are some issues with it. So it like took over my whole browser and would not let me get to any pages unless it was on. And so I don't know what we're going to do about that. I'm going to reach out to our contact over with the EUC for OTS and see if we can come up with something better, because I don't see that as being a really good option for you guys at this point. The way it worked on my iPad with the app, I really didn't like it. So we'll see. So all that being said is we're working on it. I don't know what to tell you right now. Hopefully we can get something on that for you, because that was a very useful thing to be able to get to our intranet page from the field. So I get it.
Les, can I comment on that? So
Sure.
not just the intranet page, but also to backdoor into our spreadsheets from the T drive.
100%.
The purpose of having HeadLight and these tablets is for the inspectors to cut down on OT and K time and be able to do everything in the field. If that is no longer an option, then they're still going to have to come back to the office and input everything into the Excel spreadsheets.
So Daniel, that's different. So that's Citrix, and Citrix, and I believe, at least I hope, is still there. So you
Don't you
should.
have to use the AnyConnect with Citrix?
No, Citrix has select options. What he's talking about hitting the T drive is still through the VPN.
Oh,
Yeah, you still have to use AnyConnect. So
And I know several of our consulting groups were using it as well, just from their desktop machines and laptops. So I know some of the ECM group was supposed to be testing with OTS. So if y'all had any luck with that, just using the Global Protect from your desktop. They're not nodding, they're not shaking, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've used it. I've used it but I hadn't used it in any way, shape, or form in conjunction with HeadLight or anything. But it works good for me.
So it's just a matter of solving the iPad issue.
yep.
I agree. I've used the VPN, the global one that y'all sent me on my iPad. I'm sorry, on my laptop, but I always have my laptop in the field. So I don't put it on my iPad because I'm scared to put it on my iPad because I didn't want it to do like lock me out of anything else. So
I mean, so when I say like it locked me out, like yeah, I was still able to use it, but I pretty much had to go in and disable it to be able to just go to a regular website without the VPN being on. And so it did kind of work. It just was not a very good workflow there. So hopefully we can get something resolved on that. All right, so that's the last thing I had.
I know we were continuing with the e-ticketing trainings, and just a heads up, I guess, for any consultants, contractors. We have tomorrow, there's a plant/contractor specific e-ticketing training to go over them being able to set up on their end and connect through the Hall Hub vendor portal to get their ticketing application synced with Hall Hub. It's just a refresher that the Hall Hub covers anytime they go in and work with a new plant. They usually give the same training. And then on Thursday, we have one set up for more of the QC personnel for contractors in the field of how they can access the application, view tickets. It should be very similar to the DOT training. It's just using a contractor login, contractor authentication. So we sent that out to all the industry heads. They should be distributing that. I sent it out to a lot of plant personnel that I had through the page. So the specific one should be notified. But all this will be recorded and published on our YouTube alongside the other training.
Patrick, was part of that for industry to upload certs? Is that one of the things we were going to go over?
I think that's going to be separate. This was mainly targeting the e-ticketing, more of a refresher course.
Okay.
We'll probably set up new dates for a lot of the material cert. And some of the new features. We are actively pursuing the enterprise system through Hall Hub, which includes digital stationing, the material search, which will be handled similar to e-ticketing in a digitized format. The safety aspect that we're pushing, we're actually looking at including some of the automated flaggers. We've connected with our ITS group and our safety group and connecting with the DriveWise team to actually upload this information to commercial vehicle fleets. So we're looking at expanding upon a lot of these features. What else was in the Hall Hub suite list? There was one other piece. It's the digital stationing and
Drawing a blank.
me too.
Work zone. I mean, we're already is work zone.
Is the work zone piece, and I know they're the connected equipment was the other one. Is it for the few contractors leveraging the connected equipment? So we're still in pilot phase of that, but if anyone else is interested in getting equipment connected to see what information can be pulled off the equipment for use, as well as they're building more adaptive AI reports on a lot of the information coming off these automated systems. And one of our goals is, of course, to get that synced with HeadLight as observations. So that information is just funneled directly.
Right. I think that wraps up all of our topics. So unless there's a final question, I guess we're going to wrap it up a few minutes early. Going once. Oh, we got it. Go ahead, Will.
Look, just to touch back on what I was talking about getting to the T drive. Through Citrix, you can get to your spreadsheets on the T drive. You don't need VPN.
That's what I thought.
I just mean.
Appreciate you testing that, Will. I was going to do that as soon as I got off. I thought that was a separate thing. I didn't remember ever having to turn on VPN to use Citrix on the iPad. So glad to know that's at least still functioning. I do have one other piece. I was about to get off the call, so this is the last thing. We're not even going to take questions. So last month we talked about the 3 new forms HeadLight gave us. I just received a message that they were supposed to be turned on, but ran into some complications there. They'll be turned on within the next 48 hours. I'll send out something as soon as they get uploaded to all the projects. So
that include that status one?
There is a status one. Let's save that. I think we're going to be sending out some messages on that. We'll talk about that on the construction roundup webinar next week. And so please tune into that. That's going to be a new process for everybody. So please make sure you're there to kind of get the details of what we're going to be doing with that. So appreciate it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, y'all.